In this interview, Patricio Gómez-Salas Ramírez, Region and Division Sales Manager at Rotho Blaas, discusses the influence of sustainability and evolving cultural values on industry growth, alongside the impact of carbon taxes and geopolitical uncertainties on real estate investments. Government policies, particularly in Japan and regions like Central Europe and North America, were noted for their role in promoting mass timber through certification and sustainability regulation in various countries, including Australia, the US, EU, and Singapore. Technological innovations such as building information management (BIM) and modular construction were explored. Although challenges like geopolitical tension and education gaps in Asia were acknowledged, Rotho Blaas' strategy includes investing in local markets in Asia and fostering knowledge sharing, positioning itself as a partner for the future of mass timber construction, which is expected to gain significant traction. Let's hear his insights. What key trends will shape the mass timber industry in 2025, and which markets are seeing the fastest growth?
Yeah, I see that one of the main aspects on the mass timber industry and why this is peaking in many countries worldwide is the sustainability. Probably the change on the culture on the new generation, especially the millennials, I think bring new values in the society. And this has affected as well the company values itself. There has been a big impact on the self-perception, on how, of course, the humanity in general, is affecting the environment. This, I believe, has created as well, so many aspects on a governmental side, like the carbon taxes, which has also affected the mass timber growth directly. I think this trend in terms of adaptation to this new value is the main one, which is affecting and helping the jump of the mass timber. There are some other trends I can perceive, is that in generally most of the markets, most of the countries are growing their GDP, that we are not living in a situation, a world in which there is a decrease, let's say. So the personal costs are also increasing, and while there is an increase of the personal cost on site, mainly on the construction sites, the companies always look into the efficiency of the construction. All the construction materials tend to dedicate more time to finalize, but mass timber can help to reduce this timing on site. So that's another trend, another thing that affects. There is another 2 points that can shape the mass timber on 2025. I think on one side, the uncertainty on the geopolitics today, it can create that some of the investments in the real estate are frozen. I have perceived that in some markets, in some countries, that are waiting to see actually how is developing all the relation, mainly on the politics of the United States. So those investments may be, I would expect by the end of this year, when the things are more clear, then will be unfrozen and then put onto the market. Just to finish, I would say that the global education on this aspect, the trend that will help the mass timber to grow, especially for designers. There are a lot of courses, especially in Europe. I can see that there are more and more universities adopting on architecture and engineering, on civil engineering, the new way to calculate and to design with this material. I think timber construction, especially mass timber, LVL, CLT, and so on, are materials that now are more understandable by designers. So those late year university students start to implement in their own projects and have their own ideas. They know before entering into the professional world how to use these elements. So I would say that education will play an important role on how this construction system will be developed. Yeah.
How do you see government policies and sustainability regulation influencing the demand for mass timber?
Yeah, I believe this is creating an important aspect, but I believe still today there is not a general implementation from the government. Only on few countries I have seen that. In Japan, they have been very methodic on the way to implement the mass timber. There has been economical support for industries to invest, and also a very clear structured education program for designers to learn how to calculate and how to design. It started back in 2014. I'm happy to have seen all the development from the beginning, and I believe it has been a good success to implement the knowledge in the market. Yeah, I believe the Japanese market and their industry is very well set, with a lot of history on timber construction, and this has helped the implementation of it. I don't see this implementation on top-down level in almost any other country worldwide, from my knowledge. No, there is. I could say that all Occidental countries where the mass timber construction exists is mainly done by opportunities and the concept of capitalism, so find the space into the new way of construction, as we talked in the last question. But I don't see much government policies to influence into education. There is anyhow some policy that has been established. I believe the forest certification has been, especially in Central Europe, is very strong, the North Europe as well, in the United States, from my knowledge. And I believe this helps on the demand on the mass timber on this ethical side. So there is a whole chain of control. I believe in the future it will create up more boundaries between different countries for importation of structural timber. Maybe US and European Union at the moment is under discussion about the policies on import taxes. But I believe in the future, maybe not 2025, but in the next years coming, this will help the importation on the global market of it. Carbon tax is going to be definitely a policy governmental that will help traditional companies to move into mass timber. I believe so. And also the knowledge on experimental data on what is the behavior of the structural timber on laboratories is now becoming standardized on the way to analyze and to create the structural analysis, the structural calculation. So from that point of view, I believe there is also some support for the growth of the mass timber.
How are sustainability regulation and carbon reduction goals influencing mass timber adoption?
The traditional construction companies, I think, again, this is one of the most important, at least in Europe, is very strong, is perceived very strong. So there is this carbon tax related to companies and the sustainability culture, plus the values that many companies traditionally working in steel and in concrete, they are now moving into other materials that can help them to have a lower impact on their CO2 emissions. There is now this balance of the CO2 emissions that they need to declare in front of not only financial balances by the end of the year, but this will be translated in profit at the end of the year now. So that sustainability regulation and carbon reduction goal will positively influence the mass timber. So I see this happening heavily in Australia, New Zealand, in US, in European Union. I saw that in Singapore as well. For a while, there has been done many projects in mass timber, right? I think you have perceived that probably
Yes.
as well in your magazines. For Asia, like 3-4 years ago, it was a very strong message to all Asia, as Singapore to be the pioneer with a local institution involved and big construction companies. I'm happy to have seen this and lead all this process with university in Singapore, being like an example to the world. And I hope that this will come again. I believe the sector is there for so many opportunities. So I would say for other countries which are a bit less into the first, let's say the most experience that we have already said, I see the luxury option of the housing as a first step into the influential of the mass timber. Companies like in Southeast Asia, there is not really regulation from the government, but the mass timber is coming by private people willing to live into a sustainable house. So this will bring the interest on countries like Malaysia, like Vietnam, in Thailand, India. In China is still early place, but all Southeast Asia, I would say that at the start, it comes with not big project or industrial or commercial, but more into residential side.
What new technologies or product innovations are improving the safety, durability, and efficiency of mass timber construction?
I see on large scale projects, I perceive that the BIM, building information management, I believe this is the main impact on the future as a trend, as a change into the way to design. If we see the timber construction, what is the difference versus the concrete is that you need more time on design and implementing the new systems, which is still, I believe, still early in some countries. It will help the optimization and efficiency on how to build. Probably, in a normal construction in timber, it takes more time to design and then it's less time on execution. So I would say, let's say the new technology or the product innovation to improve the efficiency, I believe could be this BIM section situation and implementation, which is not that easy one. There are another two trends that I see more coming into worldwide, which is the modular construction and the prefabrication. That is bringing efficiency, but also durability because you have more control on the construction side. There is less time exposed the timber into the rain, into the snow, into the humidity of the environment. So this will less affect the structural material, increasing the durability. So making the process quicker, it will create less risk, let's say. So I could say those are, from my point of view, the main game changer.
What are the biggest challenges facing the mass timber sector in 2025 and how can they be addressed?
Probably geopolitics at the moment can affect the behavior, especially on the big investment groups. We talked that before in the first question. I think there are some of the investment which are now waiting to be released. So there is more in a frozen way. That can be on a short term, especially in 2025, a challenge to understand and to see. Also, some duties and import taxes. I see many European companies moving into US in the last 2-3 years. There has been big investment and implementation of subsidiaries for traditional Central Europe mass timber producers. And now there is this discussion under the taxes right now. I read and following what is the new implementation from the new US government and what is going to be the politics over there to increase the import taxes on some of the products. And the timber at the moment, it could be in a risk. So it will be followed closely. This clearly can create a challenge. Probably right now, if I talk Asia itself, I do perceive education and understanding on how to design and how to get availability of the products as the main as the main player, the main game changer. I have been traveling in Asia for the last 10 years and visiting different players like architects, engineers, builders, construction companies, developing entities, universities, and I perceive a lot of interest. I perceive a lot of willing to implement, but there is probably always less and less, but there is always a gap between what can be done on at the moment to be done and how the availability can be taken. No? So I think all these steps are now getting closer and closer because there are more traditional producers. Well, the producer of the mass timber coming from Europe, they are starting to be implemented in different countries. So we have Korea, Japan, China, with traditional timber construction that are adapting to these technologies. And there are also local builders or local producers, but also in Malaysia, in Indonesia, in India, there are companies and entrepreneurs which are seeing on the mass timber an opportunity to grow. So there are starting new factories to produce these elements. This is definitely important step to the growth and avoid this challenge, which is the education. So we need the industry to develop locally in order to make this construction available to everyone. So on one side, the local entrepreneurs investing, and on the other side, there is more interest of European and American companies to develop in Asia, sell, let's say, or promote their products, their technology on mass timber. Yeah, I could say as the last point, always related to education, which I believe is going to be the game changer, let's say, to make more people enter into this construction methodology. A platform that I could see in the future to make people understand more how to design on it. Yeah.
How is Rotho Blaas positioning itself to stay competitive in a rapidly evolving market?
Yeah, Rotho Blaas has a different strategy compared to many other players. Rotho Blaas goes to the different countries investing in their own people. So while, let's put an example, Asia, like 10 years ago, there was no Rotho Blaas employees in Asia, or there were no distributors in Asia. If I see most of the companies in the sector, they go to the country, they look for a main distributor, and they give the country to that person or that company. This is a less investment path, but also you control and understand less what the country potential is and how you can invest in order to create the best profitability and how to make the mass timber grow. On the Rotho Blaas side, it behaves in a different way. There are few companies acting like that, which is by going there, visiting all the different players in the market, understanding what is the development on the market over the years, what is the perception now, what is the imagination, what do you perceive that it's going to be, and then start investing. So in this last 10 years, we have implemented 7 subsidiaries in Asia Pacific, having local availability of the products, visiting the different figures involved on the market, training and giving the knowledge of how to build on mass, putting on the hands of the different figures involved, architects, engineers, builders, educators, and universities, the networking that Rotho Blaas has. I think this has been something very appreciated, that we connect dots which are not really connected in the industry. So I believe this is the main competitive position for Rotho Blaas, is to behave not only as a company which is looking to optimize their investment, but also to look into the long-term vision of the market and grow together with the different figure involved. Yeah, that's I could say.
Okay. What is your long-term vision for mass timber's role in the future of construction?
But that looks fantastic. I think that's gonna be brilliant. That's gonna shine. I really truly believe that there is no other path for the construction to go. We have an era with the most strong logistic worldwide. I think today everything can be shipped everywhere, and the technologies and know-how are easily and quickly passing borders now. So I believe the long-term vision is adaptation to more standardization of designing. There will be all the background understanding on the universities and all the laboratory testing is available already to most of the people. So it's easy to adopt the knowledge and easy to implement local standard on how to calculate. So with all this happening locally on the different countries will help to many designers to start thinking on mass timber. And as we discussed during the interview, there are many local players now growing, and those will help to don't depend on abroad or in companies which are not locally available and don't know the local regulation. So especially in Asia, I see that there will be a lot of changes and a lot of buildings visible for the mass media, for the mass trend on timber. That's what I imagine. That's what I see. No, not really. I believe that there is a very nice trend now going on, which is this mass timber. I think we are living. I'm happy to be part of it because I believe it's a nice industry to be involved in, and especially on how the world is moving today. I think especially this is something which affects many people. So yeah. Just to thank for your time and Wood Architecture for considering Rotho Blaas for this interview. I appreciate the time and the interest of my perception of how the things are going and how Rotho Blaas is present in this change, which is the mass timber.
Thank you so much for taking the time to have the interview with us as well.